So Four Knights of the Apocalypse chapter 89 has officially released, and I have to say this is a really decent chapter. Nothing too much happened, but we do get set up for the next few arcs and where we're going to go next, as we actually get the journey that we were promised a few chapters ago, as well as getting us some answers with Lancelot and even about dubs. So it's honestly pretty good. And we have some pretty nice character interactions as well. So all in all, really good chapter, and I'm very happy with it. Before we get into the actual review, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really does help, and it shows you guys enjoy the Four Knights content on this channel. And it motivates me to keep it up, and it'll help with the YouTube algorithm to help share this video with more people, and it'll be very much appreciated. Anyway, let's hit that intro and get right into the chapter. So chapter 89 of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, titled The Four Knights Set Out. So this chapter starts off with a 2-page spread with the entire group in the King's Chambers, as Meliodas begins to tell them that it's time for them to head out, saying that they can assume that the attacks from Arthur and Camelot is going to get more intense in the future, but they have to find a way to enter Camelot. So the main goal is primarily for them to find a way into Camelot by journeying around Britannia. And I like this little bit of dialogue where Gawain is still like upset and has a stomachache from, well, Meliodas' cooking that could basically shut down an entire restaurant in like 2 seconds. Which is like, I still find that hilarious. Meliodas then says they're going to divide the 4 knights into teams. So Percival brings up my thoughts as well, stating, hold on, we spent this time for all 4 of us to get together, but now we're going to split up again. But Meliodas says that it's just temporary, as they don't really know where or how to get into Camelot, so they don't really have a choice but to just go with the flow and try and find it through investigating. So it makes sense that they'd have to split up, saying it's more efficient to search little by little. But he gives everybody teleportation beads and information beads, so that if they find any clues, to let them know. That way Thetis can bring all the information together and bring all 4 knights together as a group once more. And so Meliodas divides them into teams. Team Percival is going to be Percival, Donnie, Naziens, and Anne, along with Gawain. So we're going to get to see the Percival-Gawain dynamic, so that's something I'm really fun to see. They're going to be going to the Fairy King's Forest, which means we'll be seeing King of the Ants soon. And if you've seen the Seven Deadly Sins Courage Vettenberg movie, it's been stated that King of the Ant have kids, which means this might actually be our chance to see their kids in this next arc. So it's very possible that the next arc is just going to be the Fairy King's Forest. So that's really cool. Tristan's team is going to be searching old Camelot for clues, so they're going to be looking at the wreckage and ruins of Camelot from the Holy War to try and find any clues to find an entrance. And Lancelot is going on his own, obviously the lone wolf and the powerhouse that he is. He's going to Benwick, which means he's finally going home. But Lancelot kind of objects and says, can you send someone else there instead? And I like how Chion's just being an ass again. Makes you really want to punch him in the face. Someone really needs to teach this guy a lesson. But Meliodas asks him that he doesn't want to go. Lancelot says he just can't go back home yet. But Meliodas brings up that Lancelot promised to find Jericho and bring her back home, and that he already fulfilled half his promise. And he just looks at Lancelot, smile, saying, just head home and let me know about it. You have to let your mom and dad know you're doing okay every now and then. Which is nice. So we're gonna get like a nice little reunion between Bond, Elaine, and Lancelot, so I cannot wait for that interaction. I have no idea how long it's been since they'd seen Lance, so I'm honestly very curious about it. It's probably been a few years, so let's see how that interaction goes, and I can't wait to see Bond again. And Meliodas says to leave the search for dubs to him, and Gawain and Percival honestly misinterpret the name, but Percival remembers from the Dark Talisman encounter that Lancelot was looking for dubs, and that he was a craftsman. And Tristan clarifies that Dubs is the giant craftsman. He created many magic tools such as the Coffin of Eternal Darkness and the 7 Deadly Sins Sacred Treasures, making him the greatest artisan in the history of Britannia. And Lance has been looking for Dubs for ages to make him a weapon that suits him. So we were right that Lance was looking for Dubs for a weapon, but we all assumed he was going to end up making weapons for all 4 knights. But apparently it was a weapon for Lance to use. Percival asks why Lance can't just buy a weapon, but Meliodas brings up the fact that he couldn't even if he wanted to. Things are troublesome when it comes to that. And Meliodas just explains that there isn't any weapon that can withstand the strength of Lancelot's magic power. As we get this nice image of Lance standing alone with just a sheer ominous and strong glow about him with his magic power, as Percival, Gawain, and the Percival platoon are shocked while Tristan kind of smiles nervously. Yeah, everyone's reacting to that in a pretty interesting manner, so I kind of like it. And then Donnie remembers that every weapon that Lance has ever used just shattered. And it makes sense why he uses bow and arrows now, because instead of carrying around a bunch of swords and spears, it's easier to make and craft arrows along the way, as they're easier to replenish. And Lance says that he only really knows how to put enough magical power into arrows, so it explains why bow and arrow is his weapon of choice here. And I like how Donnie just shouts out that back when he took down the Dark Talisman's boss, that was Lancelot's full power. So it kind of makes sense that Lancelot was using his full strength with the Shining Road attacks, because he didn't really have much of a choice in the matter anyway. And he's also never been good with knives. And I like how Percival and Donnie are kind of fanboying over Lance's power. I find that hilarious and honestly kind of wholesome. Meliodas then brings up that they have to be careful as the enemies and troubles ahead of them are even greater than before. But they're about to also find allies everywhere who fought in the Holy War with the 7 Deadly Sins. As below the image of Ironside and Arthur, we see an image of some familiar characters from the 7 Deadly Sins, like Matrona, Daenerys and her sister, and Gloxinia's sister. I'm sorry, I can't remember all the names right off the bat. It's kind of hard for me to do so sometimes. And says that if they're in trouble and you lend them a hand, they're sure to lend the 4 knights a hand as well. And so they have to see this mission through no matter what. As everyone gets ready, and Percival kind of excitedly looks over towards Meliodas and pulls out his sword with the dragon handle, saying, "I'll be sure to carry out my mission in the name of the Percival sword." So he named the sword after himself. That's honestly pretty adorable. And I like how Meliodas just smiles at him. And everyone else is kind of like laughing wholesomely at Percival's decision. But then as the ends then mentions something, that the dragon handle was a piece of the coffin of eternal darkness that sealed away the demon clan. And then the Percival platoon ends up thinking, hold on a second, the king's a demon. They tell Percival to give the sword back to Meliodas because it's dangerous, and if Arthur gets their hands on it, he could seal Meliodas away. So yeah, they're obviously panicking to try to do so, but Meliodas just tells Percival to keep it. They were the ones that brought it back, so it's perfectly fine with him. And he'll gladly put his fate in Percival's hands right now, saying that he already put this heavy burden on the kids to begin with, even though they should be the ones protecting them. So it's the least he could do, and it's a pretty fair risk all in all. We then cut to the outside of the castle as Tristan is saying goodbye to Meliodas and Elizabeth. As, yeah, it's kind of funny how Meliodas being like, I'm sorry, we're going to give you like a proper big send-off, as Tristan just saying, come on, we can't do that every single time, it'll trouble the citizens. As Meliodas tells Tristan not to push himself so hard, but Tristan says, if I don't push myself, I don't think we'll find Camelot. As Meliodas just says, isn't that what I said? As Tristan kind of gives the exact same face as Meliodas, like father, like son, I guess. That's honestly pretty wholesome. Elizabeth then wishes Tristan luck, as Tristan promises that he'll be back, and him and Elizabeth hug in a really wholesome way, but Meliodas just looks off on the side being like, oh good grief, Tristan's such a mama's boy. It's hilarious. As Percival is looking on with Gawain and Lancelot next to him, as he says, to have a mom and dad, it makes me kind of jealous. And it makes sense. Percival only really lived with his grandfather for years, so he doesn't know what it's like to have a mother and a father, even though he's met his father and his father killed him. So yeah. But then we get 3 panels of Lancelot kind of like scoffing it off, probably not looking forward to seeing his parents yet. Percival just being happy, but Gawain kind of looking very down. So we kind of we know that something's up with her in her childhood, we just don't know yet. So we're definitely going to get some more insight on Gawain in the next arc, which I look forward to. Tristan turns around, telling everyone sorry for the wait. My mother and father are just so embarrassing, always treat me like a child. But then Lance brings up, don't you mean Mama and Papa? As Tristan gets all embarrassed and flustered about it, like just telling Lance to shut up about it. And I like how Percival doesn't even know what Mama and Papa is. It's just another way of saying Mom and Dad, and Lance just starts to explain it, but Tristan tries to shut him up about it, and even bribes Tristan with a pie to just let it go. And Tristan easily just lets the whole thing go. I want to see more of Tristan and Lancelot interacting. We barely got to see them interact that much in this whole Leonis arc, so it's a shame they'll be splitting up, but I feel like we're going to see them again at some point. And yeah, we got the Grudge of Edinburgh second part coming out in August, so we might see more of that when they were kids, so we'll see how that goes. We'll then cut to Cheon as he's with Margaret and Gil Thunder, as he says, you're going to help Prince Tristan, aren't you? I kind of envy you, because you're going on an adventure with someone you admire from your own generation, as he thinks about Meliodas. So yeah, Gil Thunder never really got the journey with Meliodas. So he's kind of envious of his son for doing so, even though his son is kind of a jackass. I need this guy to scold his son on his attitude. Seriously, what the hell happened to Chion? I mean, I get he admires Tristan, but he's just such an ass. But the chapter now ends with all 4 knights in their groups heading out on their new adventure, with the next chapter title being called The Bride's Welcoming. So we're going to be getting a Guinevere chapter next week most likely, so I'm curious about that one. I really hope we don't get Arthur proposing to a freaking 9-year-old. I hope he has more sense than that, even though he's kind of losing with chaos most likely. But I really hope Arthur has more sense and kind of like, yeah, I ain't doing this, just I'll wait for you to get older or something like that. Just go in a room or something. I don't know. Still, the Guinevere situation does make me uncomfortable, so I don't know what Naga was thinking with this, but we'll see how that goes. Either way, very solid chapter. I'm very happy with what's going on with the 4 knights. We're going to get some more insight for Gawain, with Lancelot going to Benwick. So, yeah, this is a good way to extend this whole looking for Camelot plot a bit longer. Fair King's Forest is going to be exciting. We'll see King and Leanne and their kids. And Tristan's going to be looking for clues in Old Camelot, so we might see some familiar characters along the way. And Lance is going back to Benwick to see Bon Elaine, so I cannot wait for that interaction. Either way, this is a really good chapter, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. 4 Knights is setting up to be a really good series for a really nice adventure, and I like how this is being set up as a split up group, because if we had this whole big group of like over 10 people, then yeah, it'd be kind of not that great to keep a balance between all these different characters all at once. So splitting them up was kind of a good call narratively to help give each individual group their own dynamics. So I'm fine with that. But either way, that was a chapter, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section down below. And with all that said and done, I hope you all had an awesome day.